that can be a challenging thing to do in this time. And but it is not something that cannot be done, because our nature is, if we discover it, if we get in contact with that, it is a nature of loving kindness. It is a nature of compassion. So no matter what kind of circumstances there are, if we find the right techniques to do so, we can always go back to our own nature, connect with our own nature. So loving kindness, we have that inside us. Some people say it's like a precious jewel that is hidden behind the delusions, behind our ignorance, behind our not knowing, the darkness of not really understanding the nature of reality. But once we start opening that up, once we start understanding better and better what reality is, how reality works, what is real, what is not real, what is coming from our delusions, what is seeing something in accordance with how it is. The more we do that, the more that nature of loving kindness and compassion naturally will surface. So it is always there. And what we're going to do in this course is finding some ways to reconnect with that nature. Yesterday we made a start and we spoke about what love is. And love is the wish for someone to be happy, whether that is yourself, whether that is somebody that is very close to you, whether that's somebody that you don't know, or even someone who has hurt you, someone that you don't like. That love can be generated in respect to each and every sentient being. And so what is the reason why we would develop love? It is not just because it is our nature, but when we start developing it, we feel happy. Right? It is the best way of feeling happy, generating love in your own mind. And when we are more happy, the mind is more healthy and the body is more healthy. Everything functions better when there is love in our mind. When there is a lot of love in the mind, others will love us as well. So when we need help, when we need protection, when we need something from other people, it's much easier for us to receive that when we have I should say, reconnected with our loving nature. We will sleep better at night, because the delusions are not so active, and we will not engage in harming others. We will not engage in actions that we actually regret and that could keep us awake in the night. So we sleep better, we wake up more refreshed, we start looking more radiant. When there is a lot of love in the heart, and you can see that when people fall in love, or wow, you look so fantastic. What has happened to you? That's what we ask. What has happened to you? And it is not that there was an event, but often people say, oh yeah, I had this wonderful meeting, or this person has come into my life, and suddenly everything starts to function better because there is love in our life. And so when we love more and there are less delusions in the mind, also the mind is more concentrated. And when the mind is more concentrated, then whatever we try to do will become more easy. There will be less obstacles to achieving whatever we would like to achieve. And then in the end, we said yesterday that when we die, we will die peacefully. And that is a very important moment in time, especially when you believe in reincarnation, because the last moment of this life is going to determine the next moment, which is the first moment of your next life. So the more peaceful, loving mind we can generate and we can habituate to, then the easier it will be to generate that mind at the time of death, when the situation is not so easy. But when we habituate the mind to developing love and kindness, then even in difficult times, it can come as our second nature, or it is actually our first nature, but it will come more automatically. And so when we practice loving kindness, it is, in Buddhism we say, it actually fulfills all our own needs. We will be more happy, we will be more healthy, we will be more enthusiastic, and we will be less likely, we will get less likely burnouts, we will less likely get depressed. And so if we look for happiness, then this is really the most wise and sustaining way of finding happiness, by developing loving kindness in our own mind. And so there were yesterday some questions from people who said, but how do I practice loving kindness for myself? And that is quite an art for many of us, because I don't know about you, but I've heard this from many people, that when we think about loving kindness for other sentient beings, right? This is what we say in Buddhism. I want to practice loving kindness for all sentient beings. Often what happens in our mind is that we visualize all sentient beings there in front of us or around us, and we are sitting here, and we have loving kindness for all of them, but not for us. Somehow we do not include ourselves in that. And I don't know, I have the feeling that could be a very deep programming that many of us have. And so that self gets automatically excluded when we think about loving kindness for others. While in Buddhism, when we talk about loving kindness for sentient beings, for all sentient beings, we are included in that. So that is a very different psychology. We are included. So how do we do that? I will touch it a few times, to get there. But I think the better we understand what really brings happiness, and the better we understand what suffering actually is, and then we bring that towards ourselves, then the better we can practice loving kindness. But often that relationship with ourselves is the most difficult relationship that we have, right? It's like, it's so easy to love somebody else, but what about me? Me is not so easy. And I've been thinking a lot about why that is, and I don't know if I can see all the aspects, but one thing that I find is that the way we react when we experience things that we don't like, right? What we do when something happens to us that we don't like, we have an aversion, and we want to be separated from that. So there is an experience, and we want to be separated from that. So when we want to separate from an experience, we separate from that aspect of ourselves. And so we give that aspects of ourselves the message, I don't like you. I don't like that part of me. And so if that becomes a habit, then we develop a relationship with parts of us in a way that we don't like parts of us. We want to be separated from parts of us, right? Oh, there is this awful tendency of me again, I just wanted to go away. When in actuality, all the tendencies that we have, all the aspects that we have, are energies that we need to transform in order to become enlightened. There is nothing inside us that we should amputate, or that we should get rid of, or that we should want to be separated from, because all the aspects that we have, we can use them. These are just energies that came in a certain form that we didn't like. But if we go back to that and we start analyzing that and we start to reconnect with that, there is always something good in it. And if we can connect with that and integrate all aspects of ourself in a way that they become useful and that they have insights, and we fully accept them, then we can see that all these aspects also can be loving and can be kind. And you know, then we feel we start becoming whole again. And I think, you know, that is what means loving yourself, when we can do that. When we love other people, we can say, oh, I don't like that behavior, but I do like the person. With ourselves, that is more difficult. When we don't like ourselves, we don't like part of us. Right? We can't, we not often say, I like the person that I am, but I don't like my action. But that is also a way what we could try to exercise, you know. It's not that I don't like part of me, but I don't like these actions. And they are not, actions are not deep, deep, deep inside. Actions, I can change my actions quite superficially. Is that true? Does that make sense? So there is a lot of work to do in the relationship with ourselves. I think that is the main relationship that we need to transform, because once we know how to do that, it's very easy to bring that love to others, you know. When we know how to love these aspects of ourselves that we don't like, that we fight with, we also know how to love our enemies, the ones who have hurt us. You know, that separation that we feel with these people is much easier to bridge. But it is an art, you know, and I try to that is one of the main things that I feel I need to work on, because it is so easy, you know, I grew up as a people pleaser. It is so easy to step over that self and just be focused on others and on the happiness of others. But then to reconnect with all the aspects in yourself that you are afraid that are going to be rejected, that you don't like, that you have abandoned at other times in your life, to reconnect with all of them. You know, it's an ongoing process. All right. So there is I once did a course on how to develop self-compassion, and that is still on the internet. So there I go into what are the levels of happiness, what are the levels of suffering, and how can we practice, how can we act, how can we move along the path with an attitude of self-love and self-compassion. Right? Self-love is not, I give myself everything what I want. That's not, that is attachment. So how do we do that? Right? For self-love is not just giving yourself what you want. Self-love is wishing yourself to be happy, but also creating the causes for happiness. So self-love is, for instance, that you stop harming others. That can be an act of self-love. Self-love can be, I'm going to be generous. Right? Because when I'm generous, I'm creating the causes for more wealth to come to me. And when I have more wealth, when I have more access to money, it is more easy to do certain things in the world. So then I will be more happy. Right? Am I allowed to say that as a nun? When there's more happy, you're more, when there is more money, you're more happy. I mean, that is for everyone, right? I do not have that such a, but what the problem is when I start craving for money, I need money in order to do something, that craving mind, that is the problem. But if I'm generous, and then I know that from being generous, wealth is going to come. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just the wisdom mind. And still, when I'm generous, I mean, in the Madhyamika Avatara, it says, when you're generous, even with a mind that thinks about rewards coming at one stage back to you, that you still create the merit so that wealth can come to you. But I feel if I want to give sincerely, right? I don't want to give because something is going to come back. We never know if it's coming, when it's going to come back. It might not come back in this life. So we give because we want to give. We want because we like giving, and we maybe want to help other sentient beings. All right, don't know why I went off on that one. Let's go back to what we, you know, little summary of yesterday. So that is in respect to self-love. So I said it already in the beginning, why can we always go back to loving kindness? Because it is our nature, because our deepest nature, if we would remove all the ignorance, if we would remove all the delusions, we would be left with a loving nature. A nature that cares for oneself, that cares for others. A nature that is, the mind is very soft, it's very gentle. And so yesterday I said, it is our nature because we can develop a mind of loving kindness for all sentient beings 24 hours a day. There's no other type of mind that we can develop in that way. We cannot develop any other mind all the time for all sentient beings. Right? So you can check that for yourself. At the moment, our loving kindness depends upon causes and conditions, right? When the causes and conditions arise, loving kindness appears in the mind. When the causes and conditions vanish, also often the loving kindness disappears. And somebody asked a question and said, during the pandemic, we are masked and we need to do social distancing. So how can we practice loving kindness? And I feel that these measurements, you know, of mask and social distancing, that is actually almost removing us from our own nature. You know, it is almost that our humanity, we are removed from what makes us human. So that is I feel that is kind of an attack to our humanity that we have to apply with these rules. So we have to counteract that with a lot of practice so that it is not going to disconnect us from our human nature, right? That nature is there, but the conditions are really bad to connect with that nature. So we need to apply other techniques. You know, we can say, no problem, we can still do it, but it takes some effort. How do we practice loving kindness? I can still sit at home and feel what has happened to me and practice loving kindness towards myself. I can imagine that what I'm feeling, that other sentient beings are feeling the same thing. And I practice loving kindness mentally. I visualize sentient beings in front of me and I send loving kindness towards them. And we will practice that in the meditation today. When I visualize loving kindness towards all sentient beings, you can imagine that something will happen, right? It is not something that we just imagine and there is no reality to that. It doesn't have any effect. If we practice, and there are a lot of scientific research that shows when people start meditating, how they affect their environment, even if they don't have any physical contact. Right? You can look into that, especially when you meditate with a group. You know, you can, they have done some measurements, how many people you need to meditate on a specific topic in order to have influence on the whole, how you say that? For instance, the people who live in a city. There is a ratio to that. But you on your own, you can do a lot as well. You know, there are also, I'm not sure if they research that or if it is written in scripture somewhere, but if you have one meditator, if you see they can influence a circle of, I don't know, 300 meters, 1 kilometer, I think, depending on the power of your mind. But we can do that. Right? Don't underestimate your power. We have much more than you can think. One time we had a retreat, I'm not sure if I should say that. We had a retreat with Lama Zopa Rinpoche in the US. And at that point, there was a hurricane coming towards Florida. And it was going to be, I don't know, very strong. It was expected to ruin a lot of Florida. So Lama Zopa said, you should all do some certain practice in order to divert the hurricane and in order to weaken it. And we were only with 140, 150 people. And I thought, how can this work? You know, we are with such a small group and there is such a huge storm coming. How can we do anything about that? But we had to do a certain practice in the evening. We started in the evening and we did this practice. And then within no time, the power of the hurricane started to go down. And I thought, that cannot be true. You know? So then the next morning, there was still a lot of power. And so we had to do again practice. And he advised us to visualize ourselves being in that place where the hurricane was going to come. And then visualize or feel the fear that these people must experience, the fear of the people who are there, who are waiting for that storm to come and how afraid that they must be. And then with that fear, strongly take refuge in the Buddha Dharma Sangha. And so that is what we practice. Within an hour, the hurricane went further down. And eventually it didn't do much to Florida, you know. So that was for me. I'm still having doubts, like, was that really us doing that, you know? But who knows, maybe it was. And so we can try that. You can try your own power. And why don't you visualize that it is going to be really big, that you're going to help to transform everything around you by doing this practice? Why not? You know, whether it's true or not, you will feel very different when you believe that you have that capacity to do so. You feel more confident, you feel more strong. And because of that, whatever you're radiating out will work better. And so in the beginning, when we practice loving kindness, especially when we have disconnected for a long period of time, we might have the feeling, well, you know, I'm just pretending and it's not really happening. And how can that be? And it feels so artificial, and maybe that's true, you know. But you need to remember that your nature is a nature of loving kindness. And so there is something between your nature and where you feel you are right now. And so then when you practice what is actually your nature, can feel like it is not connected with your nature. Yes. Can therefore feel artificial. Yes. But if you start reflecting on that, that is actually what is deep inside you, then because you practice it artificially, slowly, slowly, that disconnect will start to dissolve. And at a certain point, you will fully connect with your inner nature, that what you practice artificially will fully connect and you become it, right? You have habituated your mind so much that it just naturally, you become it. So that practice can be artificial at a certain point in time. but it is actually our nature. Just like, you know, when I'm here in Amsterdam and it is very clouded and I see no sun, I see no blue sky. It can be here for days like that. And when I look at the sky, for me, it's quite normal to see a gray sky. You forget that there is a blue sky behind that and that there is a sun behind that, and they are always there, right? The blue sky never disappears. It is just obscured. The sun never disappears. It is just obscured. And so when I visualize and I keep reminding myself, oh, but the blue nature is there and the sun is there and the sun will come back one day. And when I keep reminding myself, once the sun comes back, it can connect with whatever I have been imagining in my mind, right? Oh, there is the sun. I can feel it. I knew it. I knew the sun was there. I've been thinking about that sun every day. And then when that sun starts to appear and reconnect with what I have been thinking, my experience will be much stronger. Right? So our true nature of loving kindness is similar than that sun hiding behind the clouds. It's always there. So what else can we do with opening the heart? So I thought maybe today we can talk a little bit about attachment, because there were some questions. We mix loving kindness with attachment. How can we recognize what is attachment, what is loving kindness, and how can we purify our loving kindness from that attachment? How can we practice more unconditional loving kindness? So loving kindness means the wish for others to be happy. And attachment means the wish for me, not just to be happy, but to have what I want, right? For us, having what we want and being happy often goes together. But in order to really see the attachment, we need to separate that. If we talk about attachment, we're talking about a mind that says, I want, I need, for me, just for me, right? Just for me. Loving kindness is never just for me. If I practice loving kindness for myself, it's not about having what I want. It's not about just for me. Loving kindness for myself is still opening my heart, is still softening my heart. It's still reconnecting with aspects in myself and therefore with aspects of others. Attachment always comes with a disconnect. You know, we think that we connect with what we want, but if we really investigate the mind, there is a disconnect. Why is there a disconnect? Because attachment comes from what we call the self-grasping mind, the mind that is about me, 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 me. The self-grasping mind is a mind that is not in touch with reality. The self-grasping mind is a mind that believes that the self or I or me has certain qualities, while in actuality these qualities do not exist. The self-grasping mind exaggerates the self. The self-grasping mind adds qualities to the self which are not there. And so these qualities are, we can subsume them under three qualities. One is that we feel that the self is more permanent than it is in actuality. We feel that we are the same person as last week. I'm still the same. We feel that the one who's going to get old is the same person as that we are right now, just more older version, but the same person. While in actuality, nothing of what we are made of, nothing of our body and our mind stays the same for 1 second. So we have an appearance of the same, while there is nothing the same there. So the quality of the same we make up with our mind. There is nothing in us that is going to be the same next week. That is made up by our mind. That's one. The next quality that we make up is that we have this impression that there is one self, one person, one identity, one entity somewhere, me. Me, myself is one thing, right? I once heard somebody saying, I think it was Bruce Lipton, he works with epigenetics. Anyway, he said, isn't it weird? We are standing in front of a mirror, and what we are made up of is like trillions of cells and viruses and bacteria, and they are looking, we are looking at that. But what we are seeing is we see one person. And we believe that we are that one person. While in actuality, if we would start looking within the body, we cannot find one person. Right? We can cut every bit of the body. Like, where is that one person? There is nothing there that we can say, oh, that is it. But when we look in the mirror, we see that. Right? We never say, oh, look at these trillions of cells looking back at me. It appears as one person. So our brain or our mind is doing something that when trillions of cells in a certain shape look back at us, we make of that there is a person, that is me. That is made up by the mind. And so seeing all these trillions of cells as one thing is one way of our mind organizing the world, right? Because if we would see everything in cells, we would go crazy. It is like there is no organization in that. But so I organize things, and I think in that organize, there is nothing wrong with that. But then we believe that one person that we are seeing, we believe that exists in actuality. We have this feeling, I am this one person. Right? And that person appears to be more permanent than it exists in actuality. So that is the second quality that we add. We make that one person, believing that really exists. Well, when we start searching for that, we cannot find anything like that. And then what we do is we create this idea of, or also we perceive it like that, or that we are independent. We are an independent entity, not dependent upon anything else. I make my own decisions. I decide where I'm going. I decide what I'm eating. I has a lot of power in doing things on their own, in not needing anyone, in, managing. I'm the one who decides that. I'm the one who's making the money. I'm the one who's going shopping. But if we really look, who is that I? Who is doing all that? You know, that I in itself, we cannot find that. But also, whatever we are doing, whatever we experience, totally depends upon others. Every experience of happiness, we say in Buddhism, depends upon others. We on our own do not have the capacity. I mean, it doesn't exist, you know, that we can just experience happiness on our own without depending upon others. Everything that we have, for instance, our clothes, our food, or all depends upon others. Nothing of that came from us. You know, we come to this world, even the body doesn't depend upon us, right? We get it from our mom and our dad. We arrive in the body, in this life, naked with nothing. Then everything that we need in order to survive comes from others, right? Without others, we would have nothing to eat, we would have nothing to wear, we would have no place to live, we would have no experience of being loved, no experience of being warm, no experience. That would not exist, right? But in our mind, we believe it's coming from me. Right? I get that all for myself. I arrange that all for myself. So this independent self that appears to us, that doesn't exist like that. So these are three qualities that we add to the self that are not in tune with reality, that are out of touch with reality. In actuality, we are impermanent. We are made up out of many parts, and we depend upon others. That's the reality. So attachment, where does that come from? Attachment comes from the self-grasping mind that believes that we are permanent, that we are independent, and that we are unitary. That self, that belief in self, is out of touch with reality. So therefore, attachment that comes from that is also out of touch with reality. So therefore, attachment, when attachment sees something and sees, oh, if I have that, I'm going to be happy, that attachment can never bring you the happiness that you actually want, because what it sees is already not in touch with reality. So on the basis of what attachment sees, you have certain expectations of what will happen when you have that. You know, you think, oh, if I have that, I'm going to be really happy. But because what you see is out of touch with reality, and once you have it, the feeling is not going to come. And if you check, you know, every time when you get something that you really want, how often did you really get that happy feeling that you expected from it? And how long, even if you get it, how long does it last? Right? Very short. There might be some excitement and then it changes. And then you think, oh, actually something is missing, or that happiness is not complete. Or if I would also have that, then it would be complete, or then it would be perfect. Right? So something is missing means not being satisfied. And what you want is, you want satisfaction. Right? And so you see something and you think, if I have that, I'm going to be satisfied. But because it comes from attachment, it can never bring you that satisfaction. It cannot. And we try, you know, we try again and again and again. Maybe I'll do it like this. Maybe I'll try like that. Or maybe if I do that. And it never works. Because it cannot work. You know, but something is so stuck in our brain that we believe I should just try harder. Or maybe I tried the wrong thing, I need to try something else. Or maybe something is wrong with me that I'm never going to get that feeling that I actually feel I should get. Something must be wrong with me, maybe. And so all these problems are going to come. Because why does it not work? You see something, you want to have it, you think you're going to be satisfied, and it never works. You know, until we really see it's never going to work. It's never, ever, ever going to work. And in the beginning, that might sound devastating, like, oh my gosh, if it's never going to work, then how do I going to be happy? You know, but happiness is possible, but in a different way than with following our attachment. Happiness, then we have to say, where does happiness come from? Because happiness is a feeling that we experience, right? And so when we experience something that we like, we also have happy feelings arising. And what we believe is that happy feeling comes from me having contact with that what I like. So therefore, I want more contact with that what I like, so that I have more feelings of happiness arising. And that goes wrong at a certain point. At a certain point, we feel like, it's not doing it, you know. So where does happiness come from? So in Buddhism, we say happiness does not come from the contact with the object. The contact with an object or with a person that we like is a condition for happy feelings to arise, but it is not the cause. The cause for happy feelings comes from karma. The cause for happy feelings come from having created positive actions, having created actions that do not harm others, and if possible, benefit others. So when we engage in a lot of actions where we are helping others, coming from, not from the mind of wanting to please, but from the mind of sincerely wanting to help another sentient being, because we can see that they, just as us, have the same nature, the same needs, the same wish to be happy. And so we reach out to another sentient being. When we do that, we create imprints in our mind that at a certain point, when we come into contact with certain objects, lead to the experience of happiness. So instead of being focused on contact with objects, Buddhism is much more focused on looking at our actions and purifying our motivation and the actions itself in a way that they do not harm others, but that they become helpful to others. And so when we engage in that again and again, we are creating the causes for happiness. And not only that, you know, I think engaging in these actions itself, when we sincerely make somebody else happy, that makes us already happy, right? So the action itself can come with a happy feeling, but then on the long term, it's like bringing money to the bank. At a certain point, things start coming back to us naturally. And so then whatever we experience and whatever we are in contact with can come with happy feelings. Right? They say the Bodhisattva, the Bodhisattva is someone who works for the benefit of all sentient beings, who wants to become enlightened, who wants to become awake, who wants to develop all their positive qualities and eliminate anything in their mind that would want to harm others. such a person has joy in all the activities of samsara. They have no problem doing whatever. Why? Because they have created so much positive actions towards sentient beings. Then whatever we do, we are happy. Right? Where does happiness come from? From having that motivation. I'm here to benefit. I'm here to help where I can. I'm here not just for me. I'm here to help raise the vibration of this planet Earth, you know, that people experience more happiness. Then happiness naturally arises in the mind. Can you see the difference between attachment and loving kindness? The grasping mind, out of touch with reality, and loving kindness. Loving kindness is often focused on seeing similarities, while attachment is often focused on division, on separation, or on just on me. When I see a human being and I have this feeling they are the same as me, and I start thinking how they are the same of me, loving kindness naturally comes in the mind. If I look at sentient beings and I think they're different than me, you know, they're black and I'm white, or they are poor and I'm not that poor, or they're outside and I'm inside, or they have different clothes than I have, or if I focus on the difference, I will create a kind of separation. They are there, I'm here. But if I think about our similarity, you are just a human being as me. You have the same needs as I have. You have the need for warmth. You have the need for connection. You have the need for a kind word. You have the need for a smile. Me too. We are the same, you know. So then why don't I give that smile, that kind word, that it's so easy. And the moment I feel that we are the same and I'm willing to, I don't know, I think that happens automatically. The moment we don't see the separation, but we see the same, the heart naturally can reach out, right? There's nothing that separates us. Then there is a natural care, right? Whether we can practice that practically, that might not always be possible, right? It's not that we say, okay, you all come inside my home because you are the same as me and I have a home. You know, that capacity we do not have, but we can do something, you know. A smile can change somebody's day. Right? Or even that recognition, that eye contact. I don't know what you did, but walking behind that mask, you know, I was in Dharamsala at that time. People didn't want to look at you anymore. Not just, but it's like, oh my gosh, you're so scary. Why? Oh, you might have this virus and kill me. You know, we changed every sentient being into potential killers. That's quite something, right? We immediately have a separation. I don't want to have anything to do with you. Oh, you could have the virus. Like 5 years ago, we would say, or 2 years ago, we would say, I caught the virus, right? We took self-responsibility. I caught it. Now we say, you gave it to me, or you can give it to me. You know, we change. First we took self-responsibility for that. Now we're going to blame others. Very difficult to open the heart and to keep the mind open when we have a thought like that in the mind, you know. Things happen. When we can't see a virus, we cannot say whether you give it to me, whether I took it from you. We do not know, right? There's no need to change everyone around us into potential enemies. That's only bad for our own mind. right? Doesn't mean that we shouldn't be cautious or that we should, you know, ignore whatever advice is given, but we should be very mindful how it affects our mind and not let it take us away from our true nature, right? Because I think it is our true nature that is gonna heal whatever is happening on the planet. It is our loving kindness that can help to heal that. Compassion is normally the power that heals. It is the power that reconnects. So reconnection is what gives healing. And I know that I have to be careful how I say all that, because people might think, oh, reconnection, that means on all levels. You know, you need to use your wisdom, you need to use all the information that you have. But at the same time, see what happens in your heart and make sure that your heart stays open and soft, and see that each and every sentient being is in the same situation. And so how can we help? So what else can we do with attachment? You know, in Buddhism, so we can think about the I, that I is out of touch with reality, and think about how the I does exist. And we can also counteract attachment when it comes up. And in Buddhism, we speak about two main antidotes to attachment. The first is contentment, being happy with whatever you have. And the second one is thinking about impermanence. Thinking about, you know, that whatever we normally want is impermanent by nature. Even the feeling that arises in the mind when we have something is impermanent by nature. Everything is going to change. My feeling, I want this today, is impermanent. If I just sit with that feeling, you know, maybe tomorrow I wake up and I think, oh no, I'm actually not really interested in having that. It would actually be a burden if I would have that, because then I have to take care of it and I have to do this and that. So wait and be happy with what you have right now, right? Because everything changes. And then you can contemplate the disadvantages of attachment by thinking about how it can never bring you the satisfaction that you actually are looking for. Attachment, there is always something missing. If you feel something is missing, attachment is at work in your mind. When we practice loving kindness, there is never something missing. If we feel whole, we feel whole, we feel whole with others. There is no separation. Very different qualities. Attachment hardens the mind, you know. Loving kindness softens the mind. All right. Let me have a look at some questions. I think there's only one question. Let me take a few questions of you. And today I thought we were going to do a meditation on loving kindness. And so that is a little bit longer than what we did yesterday. And yesterday I felt we didn't have enough time for the meditation. So I will take some more time today. Can you give us examples of a few positive actions? Maybe something that you have experienced from yourself or others. I mean, you all guys are doing positive actions, right? That's not just for nuns. We all do positive actions all the time, right? Many, many, many times. So in Buddhism, we start saying, what are the negative actions? Negative actions are actions that harm others. For instance, killing, stealing, lying, gossiping, even thinking bad about others. but also all the actions that we do under the influence of attachment, aversion, anger, jealousy, all these actions are negative actions. And the motivation is actually the most important one. So then what is a positive action? A positive action is an action where there are no delusions, where we are motivated by loving kindness and compassion. A positive action can, even if my mind is not completely pure, you know, like I'm a people pleaser, so I'm going to work in a hospital and I'm going to take care of patients. These are still positive actions, even if the mind is not totally, you know, working just for their benefit. Even if I still have the need to sometimes hear, oh, thank you so much, and that was so wonderful that you did that, and you're such a wonderful person, because often that's what the people pleaser wants to hear. They do a lot of good actions just to hear one time that they're wonderful people, right? So these actions are still positive, although the motivation is not 100% virtuous, you know, but it is mixed. So I don't know, we talk about rescuing animals, small animals, big animals, doing something for your mom, doing something for others, doing shopping for your neighbor. I mean, any small action where you be of benefit instead of just taking for you. You know, this is already positive actions. In Buddhism, we talk about the practice of the Bodhisattva, which are the 6 perfections, which is the practice of generosity, the practice of giving is a positive action, and we can give material resources, we can give money, we can give love, we can give dharma, we can give on many levels, we can give time. These are positive actions. The second perfection is the perfection of ethics. Ethics means, and there are many practices of ethics, but one practice is not harming others, abstaining from harm. So when you walk on the street, you know, there are often many little, although less and less, but little ants or other creatures. Don't step on them. Be aware of them. Not harming others can mean that you do not actively engage in harm, but non-harming others can move towards including others and caring for others. You know, so often you can do actions that doesn't harm directly, but because you exclude people, you also do not have any positive contribution to the people. And then we have the practice of patience, you know, that you do not become agitated and short-tempered, but that your mind stays even no matter what happens. So that when you speak and when you act, you come from a mind that is calm, that is pacified, and therefore wouldn't use any sharp words or, you know, any other way of insulting others, you know, because, oh, you made me wait, or you made me do this, or you made me do that. So we practice patience in order to subdue the mind. Patience is the mind that is not disturbed by harm. So any of these actions, all positive actions. Let me have a look back. Earlier you said, why did I think to say it? We are afraid to give for fear of not getting back. But when you give to make others happy, it's more of self-love to yourself and respecting yourself and your values. It's not a question, but it's an observation. Okay. So someone says, I'm an entrepreneur. Sometimes I feel the business aspect of it overshadows the service part of it. Being a fashion designer for the longest time, I've been trying to figure out how to include the emotion of service in this career. I mean, there are many careers in the world that, and I'm not sure if it is the career or the world in itself, you know, we have become a world where it is all about money and it is all about me and it is all about attachment. It is all about when you follow attachment, you're going to be successful. And if you want to be successful, then in itself can already come from attachment. And so the striving for more and for better, this is motivated by attachment. So the whole world is a samsaric world. It is made like that. And if you want to do things differently, you go kind of against the stream of the world, which is not impossible, but it is very difficult. And people will look at you like, what are you doing? Are you sure you want to go there? You're not going to make it. You're going to fail. This is never going to work, you know, because everything in the world works in the stream of more attachment, more delusions, especially in this time. You know, in Buddhism, we call this degenerate times, where the delusions get stronger and stronger and stronger. And therefore, where the negativities get bigger and bigger, where the suffering gets bigger and bigger. This is the time that happens, and we can see it, right? It's happening everywhere, including ourselves. It is so much more difficult in this time to practice virtue than it was like at the time of the Buddha. Because of the time, the condition that we have is much more difficult to overcome. But that also means that even if we practice a little bit of virtue, you know, or no, I should say it like this, even if we practice small positive actions, they can have huge results due to the fact that we are doing these positive actions at a time where of degeneration, where the delusions flourish, and therefore where it is very difficult to generate positive actions. So if you know, I would say if you are, you know, and most of us are working in the world. I mean, even nuns are working in the world, right? It's not that you're living outside of the world. The world is still the world of the delusions and the world that tries to be free of the delusions. But I think if you wake up and you do some practice and you generate a very positive motivation that you want to live your life, not just for your own benefit, but you want to be of benefit to sentient beings. And you want to be of service to sentient being, and you do the practice. And I think, you know, I do not have enough time to go into details of the practice, but you can imagine that any Buddhist practice where you visualize the Buddha above you and you receive blessings of the Buddha and you immerse yourself totally in that, and you go with a motivation like that to work, and you act from that motivation, then whatever you do is going to be most beneficial, right? And then you can maybe work within that system that already exists, but you are in it with a totally different motivation. That's what I would do. You know, I think that is how you can do things differently in the world. Okay. Let me go back a little bit. I left my job. Somebody says, I left my job and I'm in the transition period because of that too. It did not resonate with my values, my family time, etc. So sometimes we have to make these actions, right? That we say, I can't do this anymore. And it's not an easy time to be in transition, you know, not knowing where you're going, investigating what you have been doing, still processing that you let go of what was so familiar and what was so secure. And maybe the fear of, am I going to bridge this gap, and is something going to come that is more meaningful? And you know, it's not easy. Very courageous, very courageous. Now the last question, and then we'll start a meditation. Okay. If there are more questions, again, I will bring them tomorrow. I hope that you heard that I answered some of your questions, at least. Maybe not all of them. When we love someone and see them suffer, but find ourselves not being able to help them, and when we love someone but they hurt us, how can we use our loving kindness practice to overcome helplessness and hurt? So when we love someone and we see them suffer, but we find ourselves not being able to help them, what can we do? You know, you can already wonder that if someone suffers, whether we really can take away the suffering. The Buddha said, I can't do that. I can't take away your suffering. So how can we do that? What we can do is we can soften the conditions in which the suffering is experienced. Right? We can be there. We can be there when we are there with our whole heart, connecting with that person, really tuning into their suffering. That is what we can do in order to lessen the suffering. Compassion lessens the suffering. Really listening to someone lessens the suffering. But it is a kind of, you know, it is not taking away the suffering. We cannot say, you are suffering, I'll take it away from you. Because we all have created the causes for suffering. And so when these causes start to ripen, the suffering will be experienced. We cannot stop that. If we really want to change suffering, we can only do that for ourselves. And we can only do that by purifying all these causes of suffering that we have generated, right? Other than that, we are living in a world where there always be suffering. We are living in samsara. We cannot change that. We can change living in samsara, but that is not something that we can do very quickly. As long as we are here, there will always be people who are suffering. And so there will always be loved ones who are suffering. And sometimes we can do nothing. You know, we might just sit with them and cry with them. And that's all we can do. And that can be extremely valuable. That is not nothing. That is maybe the biggest gift you're going to give them. Right? But we can't take it away. You know, we can create some bandage so that somebody is really sick and they're laying in bed. We can make sure that they're comfortable, that they have nice food, that they have pleasant sounds around them, that we talk nicely to them, that we can do that. But we can't take it away. And when we love someone and they hurt us, you have to try to make a difference between hurting and harming, right? If you live with someone who is beating you up, I would say, go. Leave. There is no reason for anyone to beat you up. But if you are living with someone and they say something which in itself is innocent, but it hurts you deeply, you can look into that. You know, this is your hurt that is connected to your experiences in life and might have nothing to do with the other person. Yeah, we can experience hurt because somebody is consciously mean to us, or because they trigger some unresolved issues in us. Right? If somebody triggers unresolved issues in you, then you say, thank you so much, but I need to go to my room and sit a little bit with my own hurt before I can do anything further with you. But if somebody is consciously mean and wanting to hurt you, then you should really question your relationship, I think. We cannot change that other person and say, oh, you're not allowed to hurt me. They have their own nature. Some people cannot stop that. Some people enjoy doing that. Yeah. Does that help, Needy? I don't think we have to stay with people who are creating who are the conditions for a lot of suffering in us to arise and say, oh, it's my karma, it's my karma, it's my karma. You can say it is of course, when something happens, it's your karma. But you always have the choice whether you're going to stay or whether you're going to leave. And when something hurts you and it is not coming from the other person from a place of wanting to hurt you, then it's also some karma ripening that you need to look at and that you need to resolve. Right? But we always have actively a choice. What is our next step? We do not have to sit in the situation and say, now I have to experience this because it is my karma. Because karma is never ending, if you're going to be with a partner the rest of your life who's going to hurt you, yes, you will have the karma the rest of your life to be hurt, but you don't have to do that. One more comment, because this is coming from another question. Yes. Oh, okay. Thank you, Maria. Yeah. So, yeah, somebody says about the loving kindness nature, if it is such an inherent part of us, then why is it not our first nature? And why do we see people distancing from it and practicing attachment? So, although it is our nature, although it is inside each and every one of us, when we remove the delusions, we are living at a time that we do not know anymore what is a delusion and what is not a delusion. We do not know what is useful and what is not useful, what is good to practice, what is beneficial to practice, what is harmful to practice. We are living in a world where attachment is glorified. Everything, it looks like, in order to be successful, you need to follow your attachment. If you do not follow your attachment, you're really stupid and you're a failure and you're never going to make it. Right? So in that kind of world, people who do not have developed their wisdom, they will believe that and they will go for that and they will live fully from their attachment. And so when you see that, then you think, oh, no, I do not want to do that. And then the first step you have to make is you have to turn away from that. And so, I mean, I cannot tell you how many years people have looked at me, how weird I am in what I'm doing, right? Because you go against everything else. And although I also felt not pleasant by people thinking that I'm weird, at the same time, I felt I need to keep doing this because I can really not follow that other path anymore, which doesn't mean I'm free of attachment, absolutely not. But I can, for a certain degree, I can see that following that path of attachment is not going to bring me any happiness. So I do not want to do that, you know, but going the other way is not easy to find your way in that. So there will be many, many people in the world who will never, ever understand anything of you if you want to practice a way with less attachment or moving away from attachment. You know, you might become a weirdo, and that's totally fine. You know, for that we have a Buddhist community who says, we understand what you're doing, you're fantastic, that is great what you're doing, we support you. But you won't get it for most people in the world. And you know, that can trigger your fear of being excluded, of not being part of it, and so you have to go through that. And once you're through it, you're free of that. And then no matter where they exclude you, you say, that's fine. I don't suffer from that anymore. Right? Buddhist path is not without suffering. Moving away from attachment towards happiness is not free from suffering. We will see aspects of our mind that we have not seen before. And they sometimes they are difficult to be with, you know, but when you choose to keep, you know, unpeeling that onion, eventually you come to a place where you feel like, oh, this is so nice. Yes, this is so much more who I really am. You know, I'm not wind up anymore in the way I was before. All right. I want to go to the meditation because it's, I see that already I have trouble with keeping the time. Tomorrow we'll speak more about opening the heart, how we can do that. In Buddhist practice, there are so many techniques that we can do in order to change our habit of using our attachment in order to find happiness. You know, so tomorrow I want to look into, you know, we speak a little bit about Tonglen and about the way we automatically normally go for happiness and move away from what we don't like. That emotional reaction that we have. I'll talk about more about that one. And then we'll do some Tonglen practice to counteract that. But today we do a practice on loving kindness, a meditation on loving kindness to really open your heart. Okay? And I will look at the questions that I haven't seen today and try to integrate them again tomorrow. So for the meditation, make yourself comfortable. Wherever you're sitting, whether that is on the chair or on the ground, on the cushion or on the couch. I find for us, the main thing is that the body is relaxed. And then if possible, it is good to have the spine, the back straight. But straight in a way that it doesn't cost any effort. Straight because we move our pelvis a little bit forward so that from our sitting bones we somehow get pushed up. And when the back gets pushed up naturally from the bones, from the position of the bones, we can let go of all the muscle tension in the back and in the shoulders. Let go of all your thinking, your overthinking, everything that you heard today. And give it a break, give it a rest. You can always go back to that later. Allow your mind to relax, to be here in the present moment. And while you're sitting here in the present moment, visualize all living beings around you. In reality, they are there. Now you bring your awareness to that. And then look at yourself and see yourself as you are right now, with all your faults and shortcomings. And also with the recognition that you have the potential to free yourself from all these problems. See your needs, your hurt, but also your love, your tolerance, your compassion. And observe your self-talk that represent your inner beliefs about yourself. Maybe you believe that there is something wrong with you, or that you don't deserve to be happy, or that you don't feel good enough. Whatever your beliefs are, just be aware of them. Be mindful of your experience, which can be a pleasant or an unpleasant experience. And then generate from the depth of your heart a wish for yourself to experience all the happiness and goodness that you can imagine. Generate an attitude of kindness towards yourself. And with that, create a safe space for yourself and talk to yourself in a calming, understanding, and soothing way. Whatever you experience about yourself, know that you're not the only one. There are many human beings who have a similar experience about themselves as you have. And then send from your heart white light, which fills your whole body, giving you everything you need. All the temporary happiness, all the lasting happiness. Until you feel that all your needs are fulfilled. And you experience happiness, maybe even bliss. And imagine that a smile appears on your face. And then think of all these sentient beings around you. They all are in need for love. And you have the capacity to love all these beings. So that love that you just generated for yourself, which has filled your whole body with light and love, visualize that that overflows and flows out to others, starting with your family and your close friends who are sitting very close to you. A warm, luminous energy radiates from your body, touching them and filling their whole bodies and minds. And think sincerely when you look at each of them. May you be happy. May you be well. May all your thoughts be positive and all experiences good. And while you repeat these words, you give them everything they need until they are completely fulfilled. Their minds become completely peaceful, clear, and full of happiness. And a blissful smile appears on their face. May you be happy, may you be well, may all your thoughts be positive and all experiences good. May you be well, may you be happy. May all your thoughts be positive and all your experiences be good. And then turn your focus to those people that you have difficulty with. Small difficulty, not too big. Start small. And think that these human beings are in need of happiness just as much as you are in need for happiness. And then think that you can give them that happiness by sending them love. Imagine that your positive, loving energy flows out from your heart to those people, filling their whole bodies and minds. Think sincerely when you look at each of them. May you be happy. May you be well. May all your thoughts be positive and all experiences good. And you imagine that you give them all they need until they become completely fulfilled. Their minds become peaceful, clear, and full of happiness. And these people who hurt us, they are often suffering the most. And although physically we might not be able to be with them, we can always keep them in our heart, keep them in our mind. Recognize their suffering, recognize their need for happiness, and then send them love. And we send them so much love that a blissful smile appears on their face. And once they're really happy, there is no need to harm anyone. May you be well, may you be happy. May all your thoughts be positive and all your experiences be good. And then the loving energy that has been filling our whole body and that has been going out to all those that we love and to those that we have some difficulty with. Continue sending your loving, positive energy out to all the other people. Those that you don't know, but that you know about. All the strangers around you. But much further than that. You know, everyone in your town, your country, and then overflowing to all those in other countries. And while your energy, your loving energy, flows in all the directions, you imagine that you reach each and every sentient being. All those sentient beings who are sick, but also those who are healthy. All those that are hungry, but also those that are well fed. They all have their needs. And by thinking, may you be happy, may you be well, may all your thoughts be positive and all your experiences good. You give all sentient beings everything they need until they are completely fulfilled. Think of all those who are suppressed, oppressed, but also those who are oppressing. Think of those who are afraid and those who are frightening. Think of all the lonely people, but also all the busy people. May you be happy, may you be well. May all your thoughts be positive and all your experiences be good. And you continue sending love until you see that a smile appears on their face. May you be well, may you be happy. May all your thoughts be positive and all your experiences be good. And so you can come back to this meditation again and again, and then stay focused on that feeling of loving kindness for as long as you can. By doing this, you become more and more familiar with your capacity to love each and every sentient being, no matter what your relationship is with them. And rejoice in them. It's such an amazing quality that we all have. And then generate a strong wish or determination that you want to develop this potential more and more. It will help you to overcome your self-centered mind with all its disturbing emotions. And it will help you to open your mind for the big universal love that leads to happiness of ourselves and of others. And finally, we can dedicate all the positive energy that we have generated by listening to the teachings and by thinking about it and by meditating on our own capacity for loving kindness. All the positive energy that we have gathered with that, we dedicate that towards the happiness of all sentient beings, including ourselves, to all their temporary happiness and all their ultimate happiness, no matter where they are. And then I want to thank you very much for being here. And tomorrow we have the last day of this 3-day course. So we will go deeper into more ways that we can open up the heart. I hope to see you then. Thank you very much.